am Pam Fox at pamfox.org, and in today's video, welcome. Alright guys, so today starts the first day of the 28-day anti-reflux plant-based challenge. So for those of you joining, I have so much to share. So be patient with me. Know that this month is going to be a learning month. Nobody has to be perfect. And this group is meant to be a source of education, of inspiration, to encourage you and support you in this challenge, whether you're just following along and learning or if you're jumping in and going for it. So hi Martha. So today I thought I would just start off with a food haul, talk a little bit about the shopping list. I already see I missed an item for the shopping list. So again, you guys, I hope that you will be forgiving and flexible and patient with me as I just kind of put this all together last week. But yeah, just keep an open mind over the course of the month. There will be, failures. Sometimes, when you're trying a new diet like this, you'll make something, you'll put a lot of time and effort into it, and it will stink, and you just won't like it, and that's okay. That's not a reason to throw in the towel and give up. So let's just go through a few of these things. The first thing I wanted to talk about was date sugar. So if you noticed on the shopping list, when we do a low acid plant-based challenge, we're eliminating the common trigger ingredients or foods. Sugar obviously is one of those, but I did include date sugar on the list. However, I was unable to find it. I know I've seen it before, and I haven't looked at my natural grocers yet or at the co-op across the street. I just went to a couple of the bigger grocery stores to see if they carried it there, and they didn't. So the reason date sugar is on the shopping list is because it's really not even a sugar. It's a natural sweetener. It's just dates. It's just dates that have been turned into a sugary substance. There's very little processing. There's no additives. It's just dates. So it's a very natural, healthy, really beneficial sweetener. That being said, some of you may not even be able to tolerate the tiny bit of date sugar that's included in some of these recipes. So that's where you need to be flexible and do what's best for you. This challenge isn't about doing exactly what Pam Fox does or exactly what Pam Fox says. It's not about that at all. It's about you being logical and you being smart about what's best for you. And learning. Just continue to learn day by day. And be inspired by the other people in the group and what they're doing and saying and talking about. But so if you can't find date sugar, that's okay. I haven't found it yet, but I think I will be able to find it. You can use the amounts of sugar that are in some of these recipes is very, very small. It's very, very small. So you can eliminate it altogether. You can use whatever sugar you have. Like I typically use coconut sugar. That's what I've been using for the past couple of years. Or organic brown sugar. These are processed sugars that have very little benefit to your health, whereas a date sugar is actually a health food. But it is still a sugar. The difference between these processed sugars and a natural sugar like date sugar is your body it just knows better. It just knows better able what to do with that because it's in its more whole form and not strictly just, like a processed sugar is just, start with a sugar cane and strip all the fiber and you're just left with the sugar. But anyway, so do your best with that. But when it comes to GERD, it's not even really we're not even really looking at health and benefits. We're looking at eliminating the foods that cause further irritation of the tissues. So let's move on to some of these items that I got. The other thing I wanted to mention was the sumac. So I did find sumac. I'm fortunate enough to have a pantry, a spice pantry, like less than a block away from where I live. I did not see this in the regular supermarket, but if you can find it or order it online, I would encourage you to get some sumac into your pantry if you don't already. It's a very lemony. It's used a lot in Mediterranean cooking. And it's delicious, and it's got a lemony hint to it. So for some of these recipes that naturally call for lemon, this is going to be the substitute. And it is approved in terms of acidity. So we can use that. All right, so the other thing I wanted to mention was nutritional yeast. So this is I know it's all backwards and there's a glare on there, but this is Bragg's nutritional yeast. And I actually didn't include this in any of the recipes for the first month. So this is a very common ingredient for people who eat plant-based because it's got a cheesy flavor. So this is something you might want to be keeping in mind, and I will be demonstrating my cheese sauce here in one of the cooking demonstrations, even though it's not in the recipes. So my cheese sauce does have garlic and onions in it, but I'm going to try it here without the garlic and onions. We'll put in some sumac and some salt and some nutritional yeast and see how it tastes. Okay, so the breakfast, the Three's Company green juice. So this is the juice that kind of my go-to. It's between this or just a banana smoothie is kind of my go-to breakfast. Unless I'm feeling like a hot breakfast, I might do some type of hot cereal or some type of potato dish. So that's me. The reason I love this is because it's got so much nutrition and fiber and water in it first thing in the for the first part of the day. Okay, it's got 3 handfuls of kale in it, so I'm getting those greens in. I don't tend to eat a lot of salad, so if I don't do this, I don't get in my greens. Greens are filled with nutrients. They're filled with beneficial, healing, disease preventing nutrients. So if you can get those in every day, that's going to promote healing. Okay, so that's why I like this. You do need a high powered blender if you're really going to blend your greens. If you don't have a high powered blender, your smoothie, it's just going to be more like a smoothie, a chunky smoothie, and not like a juice. So this is pretty watery. It's more like a juice. So do the best you can. But what I do is I will either buy, like sometimes I find these great organic kale blends in a big bag, which is nice because I put 3 big handfuls into the blender. These are also good, you know, these baby greens are great, and these come in the small, but they also come in, you know, the big, large containers. Or if you can grow your own kale, that's even better. The house I lived in before I moved to this apartment had a garden, and the kale grew like weeds. So try growing it if you have that opportunity, and then you can have it for free. And mine grew all year. It even grew in the winter. It was very hardy. Okay, so mushrooms, I was kind of vague, so again, you don't have to be perfect. Do what works for you where you're at. For me, these are pretty plentiful where I live. They're baby bellas. Also, the little button mushrooms are always something I can get my hands on year round. So get what works for you, and then this is just the 2-pack of portobellos. Where I live, they just come in a 2-pack like this, or you can buy them, you know, in the section where they're just kind of free. You can buy 1 or 3 or 5 if you want to. I usually buy carrots like this. I buy them, you know, I just grab them out of the bin as opposed to buying a big bag. But if you're going to be juicing carrots, by all means, buy one of the big economy bags. If you have a large family, by all means. It's just me. So I usually buy, you know, a couple at a time. And then I shop. Now that I live downtown and there's a store across the street, I shop, you know, every other day, every 2 or 3 days. I don't go out like a couple times a month and just do huge hauls. Kind of like, this is a pretty big haul for me. But I wanted to kind of show you guys what we have going on. So here, this is the butternut squash, where I'm going to be making the butternut squash soup, which is, you guys, I hope you like it. I love this soup. And we're going to be making it with, you can put the Brussels sprouts in there or not. It's up to you. So I just bought these. I know in the shopping list it says about 10. I think I got 7 here because they weren't cheap. So I got that. And then when I was in the frozen department, so you always want to check your frozen department. Depending on your store, they can have great deals on frozen foods and sometimes even organic frozen foods. So they had these for, these are frozen Brussels sprouts, and I can't even remember, it was like $2 each or $1 each or something like that. I think it was like 5 for $5. So I ended up picking up these peas and carrots. These are great for when I make my, I call it chicken noodle soup, but it's not chicken noodle soup. It's the winter noodle soup that calls for peas and carrots. So this is a real easy and quick way to add in your peas and carrots without having to get out your carrots and chop them up. And so what I usually do is use about a half of this for that soup and then save it. So I'll get 2 batches of that soup out of 1 bag, little bag of frozen peas and carrots. And another good tip is if you guys have a Costco near you, we have a Costco here, and I love buying in their frozen section because they have a great organic selection of frozen fruits and vegetables. So if you're into doing smoothies, I'm going to talk more about smoothies next week, but this is just kind of a base. If you wanted to add in anything else, you know, your frozen blueberries, any of those great, like my Costco has frozen tropical fruit mix, organic, you know, and it's got, well, that's got pineapple in it, so that would be an example of something you probably wouldn't want to eat, but you can take a look at the frozen section at Costco, and then if you have room, I don't because I have a tiny little freezer. My refrigerator is so small, I didn't even know they existed that small, but I live in an apartment downtown, so I'm experiencing a whole new way of living, but yeah, check out the frozen section. You can get big bags, and so then when you go to make things like your soups or your chowders, you can just scoop in and get like a cup of corn or whatever it is, squash, broccoli, cauliflower, whatever. Okay, so leeks. So onions and garlic are not allowed in a low acid diet because they are highly acidic, especially in their raw form. For many people, garlic and onions are a big no-no. Even herbs like powdered garlic and onions, spices. So during this challenge, I've had to adapt the recipes to not have any garlic and onions. But leeks are a little bit different in their makeup. They are not as monstrous to the digestive system, and they are approved in terms of acid content. So these are going to be in, you'll see several recipes, yeah, so if you've never cooked with leeks, this will be something new for you to experiment with. Speaking of organic, so my rule of thumb on organic is, you know, try to pay attention to, you know, there's these dirty dozen lists out there. These are the foods that you should probably try to buy organic if you can. I try to buy organic where I can, and I'm getting to the point, you know, when I first started out almost 5 years ago, we did very little organic because I juiced so much and I had so many smoothies and I was eating so much fruit that it would have been unaffordable to eat all organic. I've just kind of gotten more and more organic over the years, just paying attention. If I go into a regular supermarket like my local Fred Meyer, I'll go to the organic section first and see what's on sale. I typically don't shop by a list and get what's on the list like we're doing here during this 30-day challenge. I typically go in, see what's on sale, and then form what I'm going to cook around that, okay? Especially fruit. I eat a lot of fruit for snacks, so I don't just go in and think, oh, I'm really craving grapes. Oh, wow, look, the grapes are outlandishly expensive today. I'll buy them anyway. No, I go and I just look and see what's on sale. So these blueberries were on sale, so I picked these up because they were on sale. So this is what I'll be snacking on in terms of my fruit snack. So do organic when and where you can. I know it's different from everybody in terms of availability, in terms of what you can afford. Just if it's not organic, make sure you wash it. Make sure you wash it. Okay, so moving on to snacks. On a plant-based diet, if you are craving sweets, try to get into the habit of using fruit as your snack to curb your sweets, and really eat as much as you care for when it comes to fruits. Now, some of you, and we're all going to be different, can tolerate certain, you know, maybe they aggravate your throat, you know, so maybe you can't do blueberries and strawberries. It's going to be different for everybody, but they are approved in terms of acidity. So yeah, so try to get into the habit and the mindset that my snacks are going to be fruit. Keep them readily available in your house, in your purse, in your car, at work, wherever you're going to be, so you can set yourself up for success. To reach for, I know when I used to work a full 9-to-5 job, I kept lots of fruit at work because there was always things like cakes and chocolates and candies and cookies and cupcakes, donuts, all the time. And so before I went on a plant-based diet, I just ate all that stuff. I was like, oh, donuts, yes, score. And then I got to the point where the donuts came in. I was like, oh, that donut looks really good. I really like donuts. But, you know, I got my apples and bananas and whatever, so I'm going to go eat that. And usually, you know, if you eat a couple of bananas, you no longer longer have a sugar craving as long as you're eating. Now, if you're starving and haven't eaten anything all day, you're probably going to go eat that donut. So this is just a tip for you to set yourself up for success. This is a cherry moya. They had these. I paid, I think, $8 for this. I can't even believe, but I saw it in the store. I have never had it. I've seen people eating these in tropical areas on YouTube videos, and I've always wanted to try one, and I've never seen them in my local store. So I'm just waiting for this to ripen, and then I'm going to eat it. Maybe I'll do it here in one of the lives so you guys can see. It's like pudding on the inside. This one is like a cotton candy flavored pudding. We'll see. Okay, so moving on. Celery is an example of one of the items on the Dirty Dozen list that you really should try to eat organic if you can. So are potatoes. And I know these can be a little bit more spendy, so pay attention again when you go into the stores, because they do mark them down when they get to be, you know, closer to their expiration date. So be paying attention to those things. But when it comes to our soups, instead of garlic and onions, we are going to be using, you know, like things like celery and leeks and carrots as our base instead of garlic and onions to add those diverse flavors. All right, so bananas. So you know that my go-to smoothie is the kale, banana, walnut, date smoothie. And again, if you don't have a high-powered blender, first thing when you get up in the morning or the night before, put your dates in some water and let them soak, and they will blend a little bit easier for you in your blender. Same thing with your walnuts. So first thing in the morning, if you put your 3 walnuts and your 3 dates in some hot water preferably and let those soak for half an hour, they're going to blend a lot easier. Or just set them in some tap water the night before you go to bed, and then, or just put them right in your blender. Just put your dates and your walnuts in your blender, cover it with a little bit of water, and then when you get up in the morning, throw in your greens and your banana, and you're good to go. But I do love the Vitamix. I do. If you guys are on the edge and have always thought maybe I should buy a Vitamix, I highly, especially if you end up being plant-based long-term. I use it every day. I make sauces, I make my smoothies, I make my cheese sauce, I make all kinds of stuff in it, so I highly recommend. Okay, so bananas. So it's really important when you are eating bananas that they're ripe, okay? And they're ripe when they start to have these black spots on them, just like that. Okay, so I have a little ripening station down here. So these bananas still have the green on them. They are not ready yet. I have some more over there that are even greener. So you got to be patient with your bananas. If all you have is green bananas, then you're not going to have a banana smoothie today. You're going to have something like oats or potatoes or leftover dinner from last night. But try, the reason I say this is because green bananas tend to be constipating. If you're constipated, you're going to bear down in order to pass a bowel movement. If you bear down in order to pass a bowel movement, that pushes your stomach up against your diaphragm and can cause reflux. So we want to, that's one of the great reasons a plant-based diet is good for eliminating GERD, is because it will eliminate constipation and hopefully will eliminate bloating. So that's not always the case, and we're going to be talking more about bloating, constipation, inflammation, and hiatal hernias throughout the course of this month. So you guys that are in this challenge, I really hope that you watch these videos, because I am going to be sharing stuff that I charge money for over at my website. I teach a class on how to reverse hiatal hernias naturally. It's something I've become quite good at. If you have a hiatal hernia, just going on a plant-based diet might help, but you may still be symptomatic if your stomach remains lodged in your diaphragm. I go like this a lot, and that's just me lodging my stomach in my diaphragm, which is what a hiatal hernia is. So if we can get that hiatal hernia taken care of, that LES will have a better chance to heal, not have pressure on it, not be inflamed all of the time. And so reversing your hiatal hernia is part of this healing protocol if you have one. And I'll be bringing it up quite a bit and sharing exercises and ways that you can naturally reverse yours as well. But it does start with nutrition. Again, it does start with nutrition, because it's the nutrition that's going to help with the constipation and the bloating. All right, so okay, so coconut milk. So when you buy your coconut milk, and I use these a lot in soups, that's pretty much all I use them for. Just start to be really, if you're not already, aware of labels. Read your labels. Look for the non-GMO stamp verification. Look for USDA organic. Look for PBA-free cans when you're buying canned goods. So here is, same thing when you buy if you're buying canned. I know there's a glare. I've got a studio light here for vanity purposes. No, so that you guys can see me, but you want to look for those things. Look, if you can, read your labels. So when I buy beans, there's beans, filtered water, and on my glasses, and sea salt in a PBA-free can, and it's organic. So that's what I look for. And these go on sale all the time. And when they do, I stock up. They'll go on sale like 10 for $10. And so I have a pantry, and I'll just fill my pantry. I know not everybody has that luxury, to have a little bit of space. I have very little space, and I make it work. You can also do dry beans, obviously, if you're into that. It's really not that hard to do dry beans, and now that I have an Instapot, I'm doing dried beans more and more, and less of the canned beans, but I still keep them on hand because it just makes, if you're throwing together a soup, I can literally get out my Instant Pot, start throwing stuff in there, put the lid on, hit cook for, 10 minutes, and just, dump in a can of beans like this, and your dinner's ready in like 10 or 15 minutes. So anyway, yeah, with the read your labels. This one just has coconut in it. If you start reading the labels, this one has guar gum in it as well. I think they all do. But if you start reading your labels, you'll see that some of these coconut milks, the ingredient list just goes on and on and on. So we're trying to get away from those chemicals in the processed foods, because those are what makes the food acidic. So remember, we're on this diet is meant to be low in acid. And I'm going to talk more about why that is, just kind of the behind the scenes understanding as to why that is, because we don't want to confuse the word acid. We don't want to assume the word acid is bad. So we're eating low acidic foods so that we can promote the healing, but we need high acidity in our stomach. Okay, so we don't want to just assume that acid is a bad word. We need lots of good stomach acid in our stomach. But the trick is to keep it in the stomach. That's where it belongs. That's where it does its job. It's when it's coming up through that lower esophageal sphincter. That's when we have trouble. And by eating low acid foods, that's going to just eliminate some of the irritation when the food is going down. And again, we'll talk more about that. We'll be talking about pepsin and LPR and the connection there. Okay. So another tip is to, if you have the opportunity to buy in bulk, so if you have a bulk station, these are oats. So I buy a lot of my beans, oats, spices in the bulk section at the supermarket, and then I keep them, in mason jars, either here in my pantry or even in the refrigerator or the freezer. So I keep, I pulled these out. No, that's not it. Oh, they're hiding here somewhere. So these are pepitas, or pumpkin seeds, which are on the shopping list. I love these in a sandwich or a salad, or even on a soup. They just add so much. But I keep my seeds and nuts in the refrigerator and or the freezer, wherever I have room, because they do go bad. And I buy them, again, I'm just cooking for me, so I just buy small amounts. I don't buy like the big bags of nuts at Costco. I mean, I have before, but I prefer to keep them, in little jars like this, and then just keep them in the refrigerator or freezer, and that will make them last longer and not go rancid. So here I have walnuts. These I keep in the freezer. Those go in my smoothies. These are just some currants. So these that are called for in that lentil loaf recipe that I'm going to be making that I still have not tried yet. Sea salt, try to get your Celtic sea salt or Himalayan salt. It's got lots of minerals in it. This is the Bragg's liquid aminos, which you'll see a common ingredient throughout my recipes. So this is going to be a replacement. It's a natural soy sauce alternative, and it tastes just like soy sauce. And this is approved for acidity. So that's what we're going to be using. And another tip. Did I finish my last tip? What was I talking about? Oh, yeah, buying grains and beans and spices at in bulk where you can. It's a lot cheaper that way too. So my mushroom stock. So these are dried gourmet mixed mushrooms. You see that? There we go. Now I bought this at Costco because I thought, ooh, I love mushrooms. Those will be great when I toss them into my soups. I don't like them tossed into my soups because they have a really rubbery texture. I prefer fresh mushrooms. But what I discovered was when I put these in, so the Vitamix comes with the regular blender, and it also comes with a dry blender, and this is what you make your flours with. You know, you can put in whole wheat berries and make your own homemade wheat flour that's still got everything in it. But you can put in these mushrooms and make this mushroom powder. Okay, so that's just, oh my gosh, if you like mushrooms, that smells like crack to me. It smells so good. And so when I make my soup stock, I just do like a couple of, the recipe's in there. I don't measure anything, guys. It drives my husband crazy, but I'll just do like a couple tablespoons of this with like 4 cups of water, and that's like the equivalent of 1 box of veggie broth, which are so expensive. I always stock up on those when they go on sale. If they're like around $3 where I live, that's a good buy. They're usually $4 or $5 for a box. Martha wants the model number for my Vitamix. Well, I've had my Vitamix for 19 years, Martha. Let's see if I can find it for you. That is a first. Oh, there it is. I don't have my glasses though. Okay, you ready? It's model number VM0103. But like I said, this baby's almost 20 years old. But that just goes to show how well made they are, and I use it all the time. So that's VM0103. But they usually have them at Costco for a really good deal. And they make them now, they make the pitchers. They make the pitchers fatter and shorter so that you can put it underneath your counter, which is great. Like this one won't fit underneath my counter. I have to store this here, and then I store this down here, which is fine. But if this one ever bites the dust, I'm going to buy that one that fits under the counter. Okay, so the mushroom stock, yes, so that's, again, a couple of tablespoons of this, 4 cups of water, and about a 1/4 cup of soy sauce, or less, depending on how salty, you know, it's salty. So you can play around with that, but it makes a wonderful, wonderful, flavorful broth that has just, I'm not using soy sauce this month. I'm going to be using the Bragg's, but it makes a really flavorful broth, and it makes the soups fantastic. You're welcome, Martha. Oh, for the 2 pictures. Yeah, so I noticed when you go like online shopping for Vitamix, some of them come with 1 pitcher, and others come with all of these different accessories. So you do have to pay attention to that. All right, so dates. So when it comes to dates, you've got a lot of options. There's medjool dates. You can get them pitted. You can get them sometimes like this. I bought these in my bulk section at Fred Meyer, I think. And they're really soft. They're really sweet. They're gooey. They're wonderful. If you like dates, these can make a great little snack if you're having a sugar craving too. To me, they're too sweet. I never snack on these. I just think, ooh, they're too sweet. But they're a great sweetener for your smoothies. Now, sometimes if my bananas are super, like today, I didn't even put these in my smoothie because my bananas are so. Sometimes bananas are just so perfectly good and sweet. They're great, and other times they're really just lacking in flavor. So then I know to add in the dates. So it's really just up to you and what your sweetness preference is. But it's a good way to get in more calories early in the day too, which I'm going to talk a lot about this month. The importance of getting in your calories, because if you're not getting in those calories and you're deplete of your calorie needs, you're going to get hungry, your body is going to bother you and say, I'm hungry, I'm hungry, I'm hungry, and that will set you up for failure in terms of sticking to this diet. because if you if you are hungry all the time, you will eventually succumb and eat whatever is in sight, right? I don't know if any of you have ever been there before, but I certainly have. Back before I went vegan, I was always trying to manage my weight by starving myself or eating, you know, small little portions, and eventually there would be a breaking point where I would eat everything in sight. So we want to avoid that by meeting our nutrient needs, and we have to really get into your head that plant-based eating, whole food plant-based eating, the caloric density is way down here, whereas the standard American diet, it's way up here. So you've got to get that into your head and eat more. And I know that can be tricky if you have GERD, because you're used to eating maybe smaller meals because you have delayed stomach emptying or because it's aggravating your throat or your esophagus. So you kind of have to just really play around with that and figure out what works for you. Maybe you're going to do more smoothies and soups and eat, you know, more, maybe 5, 6, 7 meals a day, just smaller quantities in order to get those calories in. If you are underweight and you're on a plant-based diet, you have to be particularly careful, and I know a lot of you are underweight because you have a hard time eating with these conditions. And so again, you're going to have to be really mindful to plan ahead. You know, if you work, you've got to take your food with you. You don't want to be in a situation where you're just hungry all day. You might swing into the drive-thru on your way home. So you have to plan ahead and be smart about this stuff. Eat frequently throughout the day, really chew your food, you know, do smoothies and soups at first if that's all you can tolerate, but make sure you're getting those calories in. And I started to say, if you're underweight, then you're going to want to focus more on things like, you know, avocado, your higher fat plant foods. So avocados, nut butters, olives, coconut, these, you know, these kinds of things. So you're getting in the denser calories. So this I just brought out because at my local Fred Meyer, they have a discount bin in the produce department. That is the first place I go when I go into the store because I get so many great deals. These little bags of fruit and vegetables are usually $1, and a lot of times they're organic, and that's what I look for, because when the organic stuff, you know, when it gets bruised or dropped on the ground or it's, you know, starting to show signs of aging, they'll put it in a bag like this and discount it. And so that's where I get a lot of my organic goods, and I've gotten some really great deals. I know we don't do oranges on here, but last week I got 2 whole bags of these little oranges, and I was able to make myself a huge thing of orange juice with that and a sweet potato, and it's so delicious, and there's so much vitamin C and nutrition. I know you guys aren't doing citrus at this point, but hopefully we can get you to the point where you can eat citrus again, where you can eat garlic and onions again, and tomatoes. We don't want to get you to the point where you're drinking Pepsi all the time again, because those are the foods that cause the damage in the first place. Oranges aren't what caused your damage in the first place. They are just happen to be acidic foods like tomato, garlic, and so they further aggravate already inflamed and injured tissues. So that's why we're avoiding them for now. The other thing I wanted to show you was a tip I got years ago from Rachel Ray. She's actually who taught me to cook years and years and years ago. Remember her show 30-Minute Meals? So when you buy your cilantros and your flat leaf parsleys and your basils and that kind of thing, you wash them really good as soon as you get home. Just really wash them really good. You take a paper towel, and the only reason I keep paper towels, I buy probably 1 roll of paper towels a year, and it's for this and also for my dad, because whenever he comes to visit, he says, "Where's the paper towels?" Because we grew up with paper towels in my household. Now I just dry my hands with a dish towel. So so you take shake out the water and you put it on a paper towel, you roll it up and you stick it in your crisper, and it lasts so much longer this way, so much longer that way. Here is my basil. And in the summertime, maybe I'll do a video, but these are so easy to propagate and grow yourself in the summertime for me, like, because it's warm. I can put them in a nice warm window. But you just cut off the stems, you soak them in water for a couple of weeks. If you have a grow light, that's helpful, or a large window with lots of light exposure. And then once they sprout roots, you put them in some potting soil and then put those in your window, and then you just keep cutting the big leaves off the top for cooking. And these are wonderful for making pesto. And we're going to make a pesto with the portobello burger I believe that's on my rotation. So, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I think I got through everything. So I just want to, thanks guys for joining me, and for those of you who watch on the replay, I hope that you'll tune in and watch these videos because I have a lot to share. Be sure when you have questions that you post them below, because those are the questions. If you post your question below, it's probably a common question that other people have, or if you're struggling with something specific, and then I can answer it and it will be beneficial to everybody. Whereas if you send me a private message, I'm going to go to all the time and trouble to answer your question, but it's not going to be a benefit to anyone else. So put your comments and questions below, your encouragements and inspirations. You can post on the site, on the group, and there was one other thing, but I guess that's it. So, all right, thanks for watching.